10 Things I Learned from Reading Sapiens. Looking at the advancements in technology at present, the elaborate railway systems, the most iconic buildings, and the thinnest mobile phones that have everything, it almost feels impossible to believe that humans used to make do with sharpened stones and leaves as clothes. This is where the confusion comes from. We seem to forget that Homo sapiens, wise humans as we unashamedly call our kind, is not the only species of humans that ever existed. Theories show that the early sapiens killed off the Neanderthals. Whether it was due to inbreeding or murder, we won't know for sure. That's only one of the most surprising pieces of information you can find in Sapiens, a science and humanities crossover in the form of a book written by historian Yuval Noah Harari. But today we will talk about 10 impactful takeaways from reading Sapiens. Number 1. Sapiens weave their own fictional realities. The primary reason that sapiens are different from habilis, erectus, Neanderthals, and other species is that we have learned to use language and imagination so effectively. Over time, we have formed shared myths to convey what we want to see in the future and work them out in the present based on what we wanted to change in the past. Since the cognitive revolution 70,000 years ago, these fictions, concepts that have existed in our minds like religion and politics, have allowed us to collaborate and achieve the kind of world we see now. Number 2. Over the years, sapiens have been fighting about clashing economic and political ideologies, side-to-side quarreling about who gets to be in heaven among religious groups. Come to think of it, we have had wars because of intersubjective myths that we formed ourselves. Human insight is not derived from objective nor subjective impressions, but rather from shared subjectivity that gave birth to morals, laws, the value of money, and social paradigms. These neither exist materially on Earth nor in an alternate reality that we created. These concepts exist within intersubjectivity. Number 3. Brands, which are very powerful intersubjective fictions themselves, shape sapiens' consumerist values. Brands are concepts that we have given so much power to, even up to the point that we let them control our expenses, choices, and behavior. Why do you think some discriminate among unbranded clothing? How does one instantly classify a car to be of low quality? And yet, these brands are merely intersubjective fictions. Harari chose Peugeot as an example for this point. Even if the manufacturers, automobiles, and buildings cease to exist, Peugeot will not, because it has become part of our fiction. Hypothetically, even after their disappearance, others would still compare car options with those that Peugeot produced. 4. Money is the most considerate intersubjective fiction that Sapiens made. Do you think money will hold as much power as it currently has if there is no shared fiction about its value? They say money is the root of all evil. It is by sapiens' greed of money that gives rise to corruption and theft, among other crimes. Nonetheless, Harari reveals that money is the most open-minded intersubjective that exists because it does not discriminate based on sexual orientation, ethnic group, age, or religion. There is no limit as to who can have money or not. As previously said, it is the sapiens' greed of it that leads to crimes. Sapiens' other intersubjective, such as the superiority of the higher classes, are the root of inequality. Money in itself is not evil. Number 5. Sapiens have the power to change the course of history. Just as sapiens are responsible for creating fictions such as patriarchy, absolute monarchy, and perhaps even the most displeasing ones like gender and race superiority, they also possess the power to diminish these concepts into the simplest forms that lessen the impact on the world. If we try to eliminate harmful intersubjective myths, we could expect a brighter future ahead. Imagine a world without discrimination. If it's hard for you to visualize it by now, you might need to rewrite some concepts in your head. Number 6. Anything that sapiens do is natural. What this book has allowed us to understand is that everything in society is innately natural. The emergence of the LGBTQIA+ community is natural, whereas the universal acceptance of only two genders is unnatural. How people dress up is natural, whereas calling women names for wearing too little or too much is unnatural. What even is too much? There are no biological explanations for the restrictions we put on who gets to be who and whom gets to wear what, only cultural. 7. There is a difference between a spread of an idea and its benefits. Often, as shared myths escalate onto a larger scale, sapiens mistake that they should conform to the growing belief. Before we discovered farming, sapiens already knew how to collect food through hunting. That was why Harari believed that the agricultural revolution 12,000 years ago was nothing but a fraud. Although it fed more people, it subjected the masses to monotonous hard labor and less nutritious diets. Farmers not only had to feed themselves and their families, they also worked for the elite that sat at the top of the hierarchy. 8. Sapiens have become unhappier over time. It turns out discontentment is prevalent because sapiens have allowed yesterday's luxuries to become today's necessities. With endless advertisements on the latest gadgets, sapiens are inclined to seek for newer and better options. 9. Sapiens have become superhumans, and 10. They are approaching their end. Since the scientific revolution 500 years ago, sapiens have become rulers of their creation. Side-to-side innovations have led to the fast-paced lives we currently have. Ultimately, we have outgrown our hominid selves. Harari believes sapiens would not survive for 1,000 years more, although they were on the verge of overcoming natural selection. There has to be some transition. Nevertheless, sapiens have not yet figured out what they want to become, let alone what they want. To quote, "Is there anything more dangerous than dissatisfied and irresponsible gods who don't know what they want?"